All right, also Wete, it's Magister Hodges, and this is the Latin 1 Stage 3 test study guide. So the first part is just vocabulary. These are words that are just useful. Sorry, I had candy in my teeth. Very professional. These are just words that appear on the test, either in the context of the story at the beginning of the reading passage or in some of the questions later on. Do not stress too much over these words, but having prior knowledge of them may make things a little easier for you on the test. So I'm just going to go over each word and tell you what it means. I'm going to start with Wila. Wila is house. A filius is a son. Wendit means to sell. Like notice the word vend in there, like vending machine. Not to be confused with winit, which means comes. Which is what this one is supposed to be over here. So I'm going to change that. All right, numerat means to count. Caecilius pecuniam numerat. Caecilius counts the money. We have the word tondet, which comes from the tonsor story. Tonsor is tondet, so a tonsor is a barber, and they trim things. Tondet means to trim or like to shave. Pingit from the story Pictor. Pictor is pingit. Pictor is a painter, and to pingit something is to paint it. So pingit means paints or is painting. You paint a pictura. So if I want to say the painter paints a picture, I'd say pictor, picturam, pingit. Pictura means picture. An argentarius, that's Caecilius's job. He is a banker. A winalicius is a slave dealer. A senex is a old man. It can also just mean old or old person in general, but in our stories, it's going to mean old man. Sorry, we get words like senile or senior from this story, or from this word. The word tonsor is barber. Ambulat means to walk. Winit, which this windit should have been, means to come or arrive. Sekat means to cut. Not to be confused with tondet. Tondet means like to trim or like to cut as in like a haircut, whereas sekat means like I'm going to cut you. Cut. So sekat, you can remember that, sekat. A barba is a beard. Pecunia is money. X or a mean out of or out from. And a pictor is a painter. All right, so that's just the vocab at the beginning. Down here, we're going to get into some more grammatical terms. We have defined the following. What is a case? A case is the form a noun takes, basically in its ending, depending on its role in a sentence. So, two types of cases that we are very familiar with now are the nominative and accusative case. And we know that a noun is in the nominative or accusative case based off what type of ending it has. So when a noun is in the nominative case, that means that it is the subject of a sentence. So nominative is the case of a noun when it is the subject. Some examples would be like Caecilius has a US when it's in the nominative case, or Metella has an A when it's nominative, or Canis, has an IS when it's nominative. All of these nouns are in the nominative case. They're doing the action. The accusative case is the case of a noun when it is the direct object. That is, i.e., receiving the action. So direct objects receive actions, subjects do actions. I'll make sure to clarify that there. All right, so the accusative nouns, a noun when it's in its accusative case is receiving the action. Some examples of that would be caecilium for second declension, metellam, or canem. Okay. So you notice how those endings change. When it's nominative, it'll end. They'll end with us, a, or is, or something else for the third declension down here. These are examples of nouns in their nominative case. Accusative case nouns, you can notice the endings: kakiliam, metellam, kanem, all end with m, am, or em. And this is what they look like when they're receiving the action. 1 second, phone call. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so we're moving on from cases to declensions. These are two things that kind of exist side by side. So all nouns are in a case. Typically, when you look at them in your vocab, they're in the nominative case. But each noun also has a declension. And so the declension of a noun is the family, a declension is a group, I call it a family, of nouns that share similar patterns of case endings. So we group nouns based off which declension they are. They are known as the first declension, second, third, fourth, and fifth declension. In Latin 1, we're going to focus primarily on the first, second, and third declension because that covers about 95% of Latin words are either first, second, or third declension. Fourth and fifth declension nouns, they're not rare, but they're not all over the place like first, second, and third are. When a noun's declension tells you what type of nominative ending it'll have and what type of accusative ending it will have. So the nominative and accusative endings of the first declension, if a noun is nominative in the first declension, it will end with an A. And if it's accusative in its first declension, it'll end with an AM. So an example would be like ankila and ankilam. It'll look like ankila when it is doing the action and ankilam when it's receiving the action. Similar to metella, metellam, taberna, tabernum, so on and so forth. Second declension, when it is nominative, it'll typically end with a US. Sometimes you'll see a UM, but mostly US. And when it's accusative, it will be a UM. For example, the word for friend, amicus, amicum, would be one example. Amicus when it's doing the action, amicum when it's receiving the action. Nominative, accusative. All right, and then third declension, a little funky. The nominative ending for the third declension is a question mark. It can be pretty much anything. Common endings that you'll see would be like O as in grumio, R as in mercator, X as in synex, or is as in canis, or NS as in clemens. But it can basically be anything. But when it's accusative, its ending will just be EM. So like I said, an example over here was canis and canem. We also, for example, we have, we say mercator, mercatorum. Oops. Yeah. So you notice it's R when it's nominative and EM when it's accusative. So a declension tells you what type of endings it'll use for its cases, what type of case endings will be used, and then the case tells you like what role that particular word is playing in that particular sentence. Because most words are not just shouted out at random, they're typically used in the context of a bigger sentence or idea. Right. So here's a group of words down here that I'm asking you to sort based on their case. Some are nominative, some are accusative. Then I'm going to ask you to sort them based off declension. So I'm just going to go through and tell you which box each of these words belongs in. Right, so in this one, nominative and accusative, you will see first, second, and third declension nouns in this box, as well as first, second, third declension nouns in this box. The only difference is only accusatives go over here, only nominatives go over here. So, poeta ends with an A. A is first declension, so it'd go in first declension box, and it's nominative, so it'll go in the nominative box. Amicus ends with a US, that is nominative, second declension. Tonsorim ends with an em, that is accusative and third declension because of the em. Hortum, that is garden, that is that is accusative and it's second declension, Mercatorem, accusative, third declension. Whelam, first declension accusative because it has am. Poetam, same idea, first declension accusative. Pater, third declension nominative because it has just that kind of blah ending. It's not an A, not a US, and you don't see an AM or a UM or an EM. So third declension nominative. Patrem, third declension accusative. Grumio, third declension nominative. Caecilius, second declension nominative. Clemens, third declension nominative. Canis, third declension nominative. Wheela, first declension nominative. Ancilla, first declension nominative. Whole lot of nominatives going on in that line. Grumio, nem, third declension, em, accusative. Metellum is first declension accusative, am. Mercator, third declension nominative. Hortus, second declension nominative. Clementem, third declension accusative. Ancillam, first declension accusative. Servum, second declension accusative. Okay, hopefully you found that helpful. All right, so in this part, it's English derivatives that we get from Latin. We're going to fill in the blank. So bibulus comes from the Latin word bibit. The Latin word bibit means drinks, and someone who is bibulus likes to drink. Irate comes from the Latin word for angry. That word is iratus, and if someone is irate, they are also angry. All right, navy comes from the Latin word navis, which means ship, and the Navy is basically a branch of the military concerned with protection at sea using boats. You could also refer to any collection of boats as a navy. Janitor comes from the Latin word for door. That is the word janua. The original meaning, so we know janitor today to mean someone who is in charge of the upkeep of a facility, but back in the day, a janitor, so someone in charge of the upkeep of a facility. But back in the day, they were the door watch. Okay. Risible comes from ridet, meaning to laugh. Oops, laugh or smile. If something is risible, something is risible, it makes you laugh. Leonine comes from the Latin word for lion, which is leo. If something is leonine, it resembles a lion. Resembling a lion in appearance or like behavior. So if you go and eat a gazelle, you're being pretty lionine. Transport comes from the Latin word portat, which means to carry. And to transport something literally just means to carry or move something over some meaningful distance. Could be a couple miles, 1,000 miles, so on and so forth. And that's basically the study guide. We're not going to worry about the, I'm not going to worry about the stage 3 vocabulary stuff or the practice quiz scores. We're not going to worry about any of those things at the end. Please go check out It's Learning. Under the planner, you will see links to the quizzes, which is a very good study tool. The vocab Quizlet or Gimkit, you can pick your poison on how you want to study your vocab. Got a copy of the study guide right here, as well as some other review questions down here, though these aren't very well organized. These are more for me, so I might take them off. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop me a line on It's Learning or remind. I'll get back to you if I am able to, or see me tomorrow before the test. Walete.